A very pleasant good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Magandang umaga po, magandang tanghali, magandang hapon, magandang gabi. Wherever you are, wherever you're located, and whatever your time zone is. We are just about to listen to the State of the Nation address of our young president, the Junior Marcos, by Monday. But prior to that, we have a lot of people talking about what could be expected or what could be delivered, etc. But we'd like to take a break from all of those discussions and come into the real roots of where we are today so that we can assess ourselves, assess the nation, and perhaps look more closely at the things that we should not expect or the things that we should expect. I'd like to welcome our very special guest. It's been a long while, but every once in a while we come across one of the rarest individuals you could find this side of the planet, a woman who is, she's compressed within herself, not just the brilliance, but also the compassion of an intellect that spreads its wings in every aspect of our lives, not just political analysis, but many things that affect us on a day-to-day basis. I'd like to welcome the distinguished and the most honorable, Professor Clarita Carlos. Good afternoon, ma'am. Yes? Yes, we're introducing our guest this afternoon. I hope she heard my introduction, but we are having some audio problems, some connections. You know how it is. With all the advancement of technology, sometimes there's always a glitch somewhere. Anyway, so, ma'am, good afternoon. Did you get, yes? Yes, we're still trying to get connected. So let's hope that we are able to settle this. But as I've said, we are looking at our President Marcos Jr., who will be addressing the nation. But right now, we have to be looking at ourselves also, exactly where our expectations are. Ma'am, can you hear me now? Hello? Professor, can you hear me? Okay, so we're still trying to get that connection as best as we can. But as I've said, we're not just going to preempt what's going to happen on Monday, but what we're going to do is preempt ourselves in a way. Because what is important here is that we get a general picture of how the nation is and how our people actually look at ourselves, look at themselves, look at each other, so that whatever it is that we expect today and that we expect for the future can already be analyzed in such a way that we ourselves individually and collectively could find out what is it that can still be done to improve our lives, if it needs improvement, or if not, then what else could be added to us so that we can move on to that kind of a growth and development that we understand as comfortable and pleasant for each one of us. So I've already introduced and given the credentials of our distinguished guests. So let's pray for the best that this technological glitch will soon be settled. So, ma'am, can you hear me now? Professor Carlos, can you hear me? Not quite. So we'll see, trying to get a connection. This is by a phone patch. So you can imagine that sometimes, well, as they say, many of technology today travels through airwaves, and sometimes there could be some interruptions or there could be some glitches, whatever it is. But that is how our social networking gets into the air and gets to reach a lot of people. So as I've said, when we introduced our program, I was greeting everyone according to their time zone and according to the location where they're at. So I'm having this connection now with Professor Carlos, which is having a little difficulty, but I hope we can get connected likewise. So as we have said, if we are to reduce the concerns that we have into, let's say, 5 sentences or so, what would they be? So many aspects as far as demographics are concerned, because we have to look at our nation and our people as whether belonging to what class or and also what age they would be, etc. and all of this. So are we connected now? Good afternoon again. Yeah, somewhere. But did you get my introduction to you, or were we lost at about that time?
No, I didn't. No, that's fine. That's fine.
That's fine. Okay. But anyway, I said it's very rare that we can have a lady as lovely as you are, who is really some exceptional woman with something compact within between her ears, really, that we need so much nowadays. Anyway, so as you've said, we're looking we're looking forward to many things, but expectations about the SONA, etc. But what is important, Professor, is what is the state of our people? At least, how would you picture the people when you say taong bayan? How could you look at them? What could be the portrait that you see at this stage?
Well, you have 110 million Filipinos, and you will have to put them in certain categories.
Yes, right.
I would imagine the 1% will be like such a super rich, so we don't worry about that. The middle class, I think this is diminishing. Like many times, I think of myself no longer as middle class, but going down to the moving to
Oh
not
yes,
middle class. And that's very important because when you have robust democracies, then the middle class has to be the biggest category. Then in regard to the poor, I'm really seeing different numbers. And I'd like to think that the numbers have been empirically on the ground. And I'm seeing the reduction from 26 practically poor people to it's still double digits, but it's still manageable. But yeah, it's early days. There are only 365 days of this uh, Marcos Part 2 administration, and uh, let's give them a chance to work for the next 5 more years.
exactly. Well, we a lot of people look forward to that, but sometimes individually, people do not really relate directly to what's happening, well, politically and so forth, other than when elections are coming, and there will be one in 2024. But if we are to look at the way the situation is right now, and as I've said, 31 million voted for this Junior Marcos, and of course, expectations are rather high. From the time that he has made his inaugural address, Professor, I was monitoring the number of times that he has addressed the people, and would you believe that on a day-to-day basis, at least Monday to Friday, he delivers something like 3 to 4 speeches a day. If not, then he also comes out with a media, well, some conference, what you call it, a press briefing. And so that's on a day-to-day basis. And every time he speaks, there are always statements regarding things that will be done and things that are expected. So here we are waiting for all of this. But if we look at as you said, we have to divide the country in the demographic division that they have. But do you think our people are sad, or do you think they're glad?
Well, across categories, you will have varied reactions on various issue areas. So it's very difficult to generalize because absent the data, many times when you generalize, you err, you make a mistake because all societies for that matter are, divided into different classes. And each class really would have different life experiences. But, I was there for 6.5 months. I resigned in January, in the middle of January. And I really saw how hardworking Bongbong is. I mean, contrary to what people thought, hindi siya kasing sipag ng tatay niya, si Ferdinand, etc. In fact, there are times, parang naghahang na lang yung kanyang polo shirt. Yung sa katawan niya, ang payat-payat niya. Hindi pa nga siya kumakain. Minsan, tinitignan ko siya, halos kaharap ko siya sa cabinet. 4 hours pa kaming kain, nagmemerienda kami. Kaya umiinom lang siya ng tubig. And yes, it is that, to really, I don't want to diminish him because I saw him for 6.5 months, and that is a long time for an observer like me to really look into more aspects of this person's personality. Unang-una, ang baba niya magsalita, hindi siya nagtataas ng salita, no? Miski ako, I was bristling with, galit na ako, si President hindi tumataas yung boses, no? And I think he should kick us more open. Tapos, ayun nga, he's drowning in a bureaucratic cesspool. Ang hirap talagang ayusin yung second meeting namin. Kasi ito yung pet project ito ni Lisa Araneta, yung bureaucratic reform.
Yes, yes.
Because we have met on this for almost 3 hours ata yung lunch namin ni Mrs. Marcos, no? Na hindi ko man siya kilala, inimbitan niya ako kasi alam niya nagsalat ako ng libro on bureaucratic reform.
Yes.
And so, yeah, but the president, I think sa dami ng dinatapaan niya, he really could not just pay attention to this so particularly. But I had offered several times kay Lisa. Now, I would now that I am less busy as chief advisor to Martin Romualdo. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. We have the same observation. As I've said, I've been monitoring him on a day-to-day basis, as a matter of fact. And I said 3 different occasions every day. With the military, with some launching, with the house groundbreaking and so forth. And all of this with the intent to really mean well as far as the nation is concerned. Of course, there are expectations, but there are really certain problems that will have to be dealt with. And somehow I find, as you said, that there is a certain, sana merong makakatulong na, to present to him. Usually it was the PMS who would really try to summarize all the different executive departments and then help him out. But what's happening is talagang siya nagtatake lahat, how it is. And that is why every time he makes a speech, he either tries to summarize already what has been said and then something new again. But we have problems. And so that is what we want to look at this particular stage before he goes into the next 4 or 5 years. And these problems are the ones that really affect people individually and collectively. One of these you mentioned, the bureaucracy is something that he already said will have to be streamlined, but it still is not being done the way it should be done. We still have a lot of overlapping and so many documents that are needed. How can we be able to translate your book on the level of the executive departments and all down to the LGUs? How can we do this? How can we in media help out to do this?
Well, with great difficulty. But the first thing is to not assign this to DBM, because DBM itself has to be reformed. This has to be assigned to an external agency, preferably composed of scholars like me. I'm not offering my services, but yes, I'm offering my services because I wrote the book, which means I know a little bit more than the one selling, maruya in the street, exaggerating to make a point. This is a very dangerous work because you will be abolishing offices, you'll be merging them, you'll be creating them. And you have a huge bureaucracy. If one moves, you move something in the DA, you will move something in the DNR, you'll move something in the DAR. These DBM people think that, it's just a case of, basahin mo yung mandato nila, tignan mo yung nagbubungguan, wala. It doesn't work that way. I told them to their faces that it doesn't work that way. Huwag na natin magiging susingin tao yung binlang pa ko. Nagalit sa akin. Anyway, I'm a scholar and I'm speaking from an evidence-based study. So, you can't do it kasi dapat external talaga. Dapat may presidential commission on government rationalization. And by the way, it's not just streamlining the processes. You have to re-engineer. Re-engineer means examining the mandates and recasting them and really changing them altogether. Ang daming dapat natin na i-abolish na opisina dahil obsolete na sila, hindi mo na sila kailangan. Hindi mo ba?
Exactly.
Hindi mo sila abolish themselves. No.
That's very true.
Siguro merong error in judgment si President Bongo.
So really to streamline is, as you said, it's a horrendous job. But maybe we could get into summarizing your book into segments so that this could be discussed by many media outlets, and also now that we have social networking. Ang halaga po nun, I've read through your book and that is exactly what we need, but it's not being done, it's not being followed. Several people have written, for instance, have talked about it. Yun lang mga documents na kailangan doon sa mga sasakyan na sumasakay ng Roro. Ang dami-daming hinihingi. Sabi nga nung isa, why do we have to get a clearance on the Coast Guard? Is our vehicle floating in the water or something like that? Yung mga local government units are trying to streamline this. Pero sa mga government agencies po, ma'am, kailangan pa. And I think that is where we can limit corruption. Don't you think so? I mean, streamlining the bureaucracy could really limit corruption.
Yeah, excellent observation. I was the consultant of Francis Tolentino for 6 years sa MMDA. Tinas ko yan kasi yung meron kasing gripo na nagtulo-tulo doon sa ladies room.
Uh-huh.
Sabi ko, imbis bumili na akong gripo, magkano lang naman yun. Sabi ko, i-trace nga lang natin kung paano mag-requisition ng gripo. Alam mo kung ilang signatures, 26 signatures. Alam mo how long to buy a gripo? 12 months. I mean,
My
for that,
goodness.
gripo lang yan, ha? I mean, you can imagine big things like in the hospital, kailangan mo para sa center, etc. I mean, it's really monumental talaga yung bureaucracy. And why are we doing that? Kasi siguro dyan, ito gusto mo mag-sign dyan eh. But if you reduce human intervention, yun ang streamline na sinasabi mo, then there will be less corruption. Kasi less ang human intervention. And we will go therefore to AI, automation, robotization. Many of the things that are repeatedly done, guys, I was telling them, you will be replaced by the machine. Accountants, you will be replaced. On the call centers, ilang million yan, you will be replaced. You will be automated. Kaya yung naggagawa ng ating university curriculum, mga presidents, etc., academic groups, they will have to really go back to the drawing board. Ano ng courses ang ating kahintuin na? Kasi yung magulang, at the end of it, naku, Diyos ko, maghango na yung aking anak na sa kahirapan. Yung pala, sorry ha, tay. Wala po akong mahanap trabaho eh. I mean, you've got a kind of fine calibration. Kind of fine calibration. And yung bureaucracy mo, indikit mo na sa education. Kasi yung
Exactly.
nakuha mo papel, ay wala kang mahanap na anong pangalan nito. Nakikita mo BS Chemistry, BS Biology. Nako-call center, hello.
Yes,
Diba?
that's very true. That's true. That's the easiest job that they can get. But you're very correct. When we get back to the fundamentals, as you said, now we have the rise of artificial intelligence, and then this chat GTS and all of this. Yeah, that could be, the New Yorkers who have been writing essays on this. Now, very soon it could be replaced. Many of the things that are being done in the offices. But let's get down to what you said, Professor, as far as education is concerned. First off, we have this kindergarten to the 12th year. But then again, when you get to K10, that's the time that you're supposed to choose what you want to get into. But it is not really helping out the student to get work, okay? And then we have the problem also of the children nowadays. We have lost one generation, Professor, those whose parents have became OFWs, yung mga anak, ang interest lang nila yung pagdating ng dollars, pagkatapos bibili ng mga latest gadget. Now we have the new generation ngayon, ito naman ang ambisyon nila ay maging kagaya ng mga Korean pop singers, etc. and all of that. So, yung malungkot dyan, because the education system, sabi mo nga, Professor, kailangan na yung digitalization, yan lahat tungkol sa technology, maturo ng maaga. Pero kailangan siguro, ma'am, sa simula, turuan din sila yung ating character formation, etc. Wala din yan. And would you agree that one important subject that should really be there all throughout studies is ethics? Ethics.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Connected din sa good manners, no?
Yes.
Siguro, let's say, ang dami kong key issues na I'm listening to you. Yung K-12, no, total, sumama na tayo sa universally accepted kindergarten to grade 12. Ayusin na natin yan. Bakit yung EDCOM 1 ay ang pinalakas niya yung SHED and VOCTEC, yung TESTA, part siya ng integrated schooling. Kaya nga yung EdCog doon, nakausap ko yung isang ano doon. Sabi ko, ibalik ninyo yan. Kasi yung CHED and yung TESDA, walang karapatan nga na lumabas ng system ng DepEd. Kasi nga sa system mo, ihahanay ka na eh. O ikaw ba mahilig ka magpanday, tubero, etc. Mag-repair-repair ng mga aircon, etc. So dito ka humanaw sa TESDA. Ikaw ba mahilig ka sa STEM, science and engineering and math. So dito ka humanaw sa sa CHED. And yung CHED, wala yung karapatan na mag-approve or disapprove ng mga curricular offerings. Ang birth sa kanila is to harmonize. Wala kayong karapatan na halimbawa, merong mag-o-offer ng International Studies Certificate course. Pakialam doon na gusto nitong University X, no? Bakit ko papakialaman nun? Tignan mo lang na merong minimum standard. Pero for you to approve or disapprove, sino ka ba? Naman, CHED, tignan mo yung mandato ng CHED, hindi yan approving yung because academics say themselves, yung decision makers ng university, yan ang nag-decide. Yeah. Whether we are going to stop all those going to the college of law, takot na yung lawyers na. Andiyan lang sa sulok ng notary public. Diba? Kaya nga, Diyos ko, magpapaanal ka, magpapadivorce ka, andiyan lang yung sa Amerika nga, hindi mo na kailangan ng lawyer. Even paralegal, kaya mo na, andiyan lang yung form eh. Pagdalas ka sa sarili mo, ang dami, di ba? Ang daming mawawala. And yet, carry over ng colonization na, lahat ng family gusto may lawyer. Ang dami ko ng mga estudyante niya kasi polita yung base, ang base BA niyan eh. Ang dami ko na sasabihin nila, ma'am, nakakaangat. Nag-form kami ng office, dyan kami sa Ortigas. We were throwing good money after that and we didn't have, akala nila yung mga kliyente nyo, milyon. These are few and very far between. We're talking like maybe single-digit lawyers who go into the job. The rest are just, andyan. And most of the time, mga pro bono yan, yung mga contingency cases. Siguro yung nabibinig mong yung mayaman na lawyer, nasa single-digit percentage.
That's very true. We have an oversupply of some courses that actually are simply just there, and that, as you said, yung iba nag-a-apply na lang sa BPO, etc. Hindi po nagmamatch yung pangangailangan ng ating ekonomiya, our growth direction with the courses that ought to be taken. Like for instance, in some countries, sinasabi nga na why don't you take up commercial studies or marketing, etc. Kasi yun ang kailangan. And of course, sa industries, kailangan din yan. And then, what is so unattractive is going back to agriculture. How can you make yung magiging magsasaka, magtatanim, magbubukid, etc. attractive enough? Because we are an agricultural country. So you're correct about the CHED going into higher education when higher education does not match the growth directions, the roadmap for growth. So what do we do?
Yeah, but let's hark back to the trade market regime. Totoo, na talagang nasa isip ni President Ferdinand, nabigyan mo ng lupa yung tao kasi yan ang hinihingi na niya for, centuries. Pero tignan mo, binigay mo lupa. 7 hectares. Hindi mo siya binigyan ng support.
Yes.
And ngayon, ang kailangan ngayon, the kind of agriculture engineering happens ngayon, would need a huge, I'm sure nakita mo sa amin, inspirasyon ng tao, kasi ginagawa nila. Because you already have the machinery. Some of them manufactured by Filipino manufacturers, which can already produce all the food that we have. And we're such stupid as told people. Actually, magtapong ka lang din ng buto, nagtutubo siya mag-isa. Hindi naman ito deserto eh. And yet, we never are able to put together yung sinasabi ni Bongbong na perfect the value chain. There are too many moving parts. Kaya sana, makahanap na siya ng DA kasi nga nakadapasa sa maraming bagay. Ang dami ng mga tao dyan, huwag na natin bagitin kung sino, na pwedeng gumawa ng DA board. And agriculture, bakit yan nasa door sa totem pole ng gusto ng mga bata? Kasi pinakita natin yung agriculture. Sa buong araw, yung ang song nga ayaw mo ka talaga yan. Di ba? Sa song, makikita mo talaga yung espiritu. Ako ngayon, of course, now that I'm better traveled, alam ko na ngayon yung Zamboanga. Pero dati, di ba, don't you go too far, Zamboanga. Di ba? Parang, oh my God, ano yung pala ng Zamboanga? Yung pala where you're going to forget your, So, maling-mali yung mga kanta na talagang nagtanim ng masamang sa atin, notion sa atin. So, hindi ba ang daming dapat gawin? Pero yes, you've got to start. Mag-start attention. Kasi mga bata ngayon, mga apo ko, pag hindi ako kinakausap na tumitingin sa mata ko, parang gusto kong sampalin. Sabi ko, be a decent person, magpakatao ka nga. Parang sinabi, magpakatao ka. Magpakatao ka, minsan sinabi mong ethics. Tignan mo ako sa mata, pagkausap mo ako, wag ka sa equipment mo.
Yes.
Pagkatapos pagdating ko, magmano ka. No? Magmano ka. Pagkatapos makikita ka ng matanda, magmano ka din.
Yes.
Yung mga anak ko sa Amerika, nagmamano yan.
Yes.
So bakit? Kung ka magmano, yun respect yun eh. Diba? So all these things, ang daming moving parts. But again, if you have the national strategy, siguro, yun ang tampo ko kay President Bongo. Sometime in November, nag-present ako at yun, talagang binuno namin yan sa NSC. And parang ngayon, nakakiling siya sa pinisente na balisakan. Alam mo, examinin mo yung pinisente balisakan. Wala isang single line doon tungkol defense and security. Walang single line. Wala. There's nothing there. Saan yung food security? Nasaan yung energy security?
That is,
Pagbalik-takan ako dyan. Alam mo ba, isang ka. Sabi niya, alam mo, sabi ni President, ito bakit? Kasi wala nang God guide doon. Alam mo naman, ikaw palagi ka nagpataas ng kamay pag meron kang hindi nagusto ng sinabi ng cabinet member. Wala nang ganun.
That's true. Because sometimes, like for instance, when they have cabinet meetings, we really do not get the nitty-gritty of what was taken up. It's the president who, after the cabinet meeting, when he so desires and there is time, that's when he gives us a brief on what was taken up. But all of this is just passing through without really getting into the nitty-gritty of what ought to be done. You know, I mentioned something about Allison's essence of decision-making, etc. You mentioned this at one time. Pero yun ang mahalaga because this also should really trickle down to every executive office so that the people will get to understand what really is going on, you know. Kasi siya, as the president, marami siyang pronouncements, but coming from the cabinet itself, wala tayong talagang nalalaman. You mentioned something at Balisacan and all. The other, about a week or two ago, I was listening to the Department of Trade and Industry, and all I got was the summary that we need a high-frequency monitoring system for inflation and high prices. I mean, parang hindi ko pa maintindihan din. So that is what I mean, ma'am. Parang, you mentioned something about the essence of decision-making, which should really trickle down to the members of the cabinet likewise.
Yeah. Pero siguro, tugtong dyan, I'm sure marami magagalit sa akin dating cabinet. Marami kang like that marking in place. So I want the president to really kick us. Palitan din. Wala nang innovation, wala nang creative idea. Because parang galing niya eh. I can talk only of 2 or 3 people who really are making waves there. Si Christina Frasco. Ano ko yan eh? So ko siya nakilala, no? And very hard worker. And Christina is also working within so much bureaucracy, so much yung dapat nakikipag-ugnayan yung DPWH sa kanya, hindi nakikipag-ugnayan, papunta doon sa lupak-lupak, sinasakyan, yung gano'n. So, damdam ko yung ni Christina, no? At she's so hardworking. Kami nga nagkikindaplan kami yan sa cabinet. Kasi pag sabi niya, supportahan mo naman ako dito sa ito. Ako din, supportahan mo. Mga pinto ko namin, kasi may kami mga kakikayan doon. So, really, there are 2 or 3 cabinet members na talagang saludo ko. The rest, dapat palitan.
Exactly. As you said it quite. Yeah. Oo. Pero totoo po yun, ma'am. Then we're leading on to that precisely. Yung sabi ko nga na hindi natin nalalaman talaga kung anong nangyayari sa mga iba't ibang departamento sapagkat that's it, we just somehow listen to what they say in which we also don't understand. Yung sabi ko nga isang araw ngayon, imagine high frequency monitoring for certain aspects sa Department of Trade. Ano ba yun? You know, when we keep on harping, kawawa naman yung talagang mga mini, small industries na kailangan tulungan. But here we are at this particular stage where the president really needs all the support that can be given. Sabi nga ninyo, kailangan medyo mag-kick ass siya. Huwag masyado yung talagang so statesman-like and magaling magsalita and a good orator, etc. And you want him to be a little stronger when it comes to certain decisions. And you're correct, ma'am. Several departments, heads, and several executive officers kailangan talaga magkaroon ng re-engineering or kailangan talaga mag-ayos na, especially now. So these are the expectations that we are voicing today, so that there could be at least some movement. So there you see a difference. Running a nation, running a country, and running a government. Malaking diferensya po yan. Di po ba?
Yeah. And siguro meron isang tao, nung sabi ko nga sa'yo, this person did not know me from Eve, no? Who went out of her way to invite me to lunch sa kanyang opisina. A very long discussion. She is a person who has taught law. She's a licensed New York lawyer. I'm sure you know whom I'm referring to. She's Lisa Araneta.
Yes.
And many people have denigrated her. And ako kasi pareho kami, yung feisty. And we really don't care a shit what people tell us. No?
She's a
Because
professor
we know who we
also,
are.
yes.
Yeah, you know who we are. Alam mo, ako, sinulatan ko nga siya kasi she's been so good to me. Alam mo, extraordinarily. Gustuhan ko talaga siya kasi yung sabi ko, wow, ito si Lisa is a woman after my heart. Kasi alam niya what scholarship is all about and how we can reform our country. And hindi man ako nag-skip-skip sa kanya, pero nakita ko talaga yun, nagtanda ko na So alam ko kung nagbo-bullshit yung tao. Why doesn't the president harness Lisa Araneta, Michael? Siguro sa pamamagitan ng program mo, bring that home to the president, especially since you are so close to the Ferdinand Marcos the First. Lisa Araneta should be harnessed by our country. She is very intelligent, feisty. She can bullshit anybody, and to work her way through the bureaucracy. And I'm willing to help her. I just turned 77 the other week. And the third period of my life, I want this country to succeed. I want Bongbong to succeed. Bakit hindi nyo yung si Lisa? Every time si Lisa may sinasabi sa bakit citizen din naman yan? And the fact that she's first lady, ang dami mong kilala dahil I'm sure before the Marcos, ang dami ding Araneta, di ba? She's a person in her own. Actually, pag may nakakadinig sa akin yan, sasabihin, nagsisip-sip ako. Sabi ko, no.
That's a very good point, Professor, because what is happening is there's always a lot of criticism against her instead of bringing out exactly what she can do for our country. Because, as you said, she's also a professor the College of Law when the president was governor in Ilocos. And to think that she made that early decision to have her young boys study there in Ilocos. So, she did not think of sending them or living here in Manila. Instead, she wanted them to be immersed in what their father was representing as far as governor of the province is concerned. And in many aspects, yeah. So that was a very, remarkable and quite, a very noble decision to have her sons study in their younger years in the province. And then, of course, she was a professor there, also in the College of Law at the University, Mariano Marcos University. So as you've said, she could really contribute in many ways by herself and the many aspects that she could be involved in, especially in education, and then, of course, in many other avenues where her husband would be needing also some buffer. That's a very good angle. So,
for you to see the kind of person she is, doon niya ni-raise ang tatlo niyang boys sa Ilocos. Alam mo si Sandro ngayon, the first time na the president briefed me, at the end of which inappoint ako a national security advisor, Sandro was there. And Sandro would always say, Mom, every time nakikipag-usap ko sa dad ko, palaging meron akong parang lecture sa geopolitics. Then we talk about all the state foreign policy and all.
And si Sandro ngayon, siyempre, kapitbahay kami ngayon sa house, no? Kasi si Sandro nasa first floor, ako nasa sixth floor, and madalas nagkikita kami sa office in Martin Duartes. I really love Sandro. Napaka-respectful na tao. And gusto ko ito si Sandro, pagamat another Marcos. He will make a very good national leader. Pero magpahinog muna siya dito sa lower chamber, etc. like that. He really needs to, to learn all the ropes. Pero siya, alam mo, mabait siya. Hindi ko, every time nakikita ko siya, meeting with other people, miski na-asar siya or anything like that, I'm sure alam na natin kung sino nag-aasar sa kanya. Hindi siya nakikipo. He's such a decent person, you know. And when I saw them, I think at the National Defense College nung governor si Bongbong, hindi na niya natandaan na nanood niya ako. Andun yung mga bata na alam mo yung mesa ni Bongbong, no, parang mesa ng clerk, no? And pagdating ng mga bata doon, nagmano agad sa akin. Sabi ko, wow, sa akin, naka-earn talaga ng points.
Yes.
So Lisa is not only a remarkable person, but so much more. Understatement yung remarkable. Kaya sana mapakinggan ni Lisa itong ating interview, no? Siguro ipaabot mo sa kanya. I want Lisa, please be there. No, kailangan natin talaga ng competent, intelligent people na who will be bullshitting anybody, who will be an obstacle to what we want to do. You are that person. I am also that person, however old I am. And kung kailangan mo ko, gawin natin yung bureaucratic reform.
Yeah. I think she would be very good along that line, because that's exactly where you need a strong personality to push through with certain reforms, certain reformation, and as you've said, a re-engineering. She is, she's having little meetings actually. She has this laboratory para sa masa, and then she meets with several groups, artists, etc. and all. But as you've said, yes, there has to be something more active as far as her role is concerned. You know.
No, for the title. For the title. I mean, you remember, Mrs. Magda? Hindi ba, pinaayos sa kanya yung Manila, sabi niya, oh my God, sobra talaga kung programa niyo ito, and she got a lot of luck when she said that the only way for the city to be rebuilt is for it to be reduced to ashes. Tama siya eh. Tama siya, pero ang daming nagpukol sa kanya ng mga bato, di ba? Ganun yun eh. Mrs. Marcos, the first is actually, si Lisa is mas feisty. Kasi kaya ako na-recognize yun. Kasi ganun ako kataray. Ano yung taray namin, hindi yabang. Yun ang taray that we know what to do.
Yes.
You know? Diba? Sige, bukas. Ito ko, lahat kayo nasasama sa akin. Cut out all the bullshit and let us just work. Ganyan si Lisa. And natuwa nga ako dahil sabi ko, itong tao na to, namit na lang ako dun sa sa debate. Sa debate na lang niya ako nakita. Yeah.
Yes, and we really try to follow the things that she has been doing, and how she has been managing also how she meets with people, etc. You could see that one of the first fiesta-like atmosphere that she had was for the military. She had a concert for them. One of the early times that she entertained there was really first for the soldiers, and then she also had some kind of fiesta for the children, and then for the Christmas holidays, she and there is something about the simplicity by which she also handles a lot of the events, because I have attended, for instance, twice already the birthday of Mrs. Marcos, and even that was in a way, it's not by comparing, but you could see that it was very properly done, etc. And even how protocol was followed, and the different aspects of what you should do when you get there, everything was in order. And for me, that was something new, because how it was dati noon, the past presidents, basta kahit na sino pwedeng pumasok. Ito, there is really there is a sense of discipline that you have to follow certain procedures and so forth. And that I think is where she could be of great use to many aspects in governance. So as we were discussing, being a professor in the College of Law and having been able to handle many things as far as the campaign was concerned, it is really about time that she can spread herself a little broader. And so I hope well, whoever is within her office or the office of the president would be listening. And there you have Professor Clarita Carlos and Rita Gadi's Chronicles really urging
Yeah.
on for for a more active role.
Maybe Rita, you can send her, ano ba tawag yun, transcript pa nito, para matinig na. Kasi,
Yes.
kailangan niya ng political courage. Eh. You know, she is being challenged by, you know, the social media, evil people
Oh yes,
na
nakakaawa
who not know
talaga.
her, no?
Yes.
Or niya pakialaman yun. Kasi bukod siguro sa bureaucratic reform, isa pang dapat pakialaman ni Lisa Araneta is really, Marcos, yung universal healthcare, hindi naman universal. Ang dami sa akin ang hihingi na akala nila meron akong kilala sa Congress na. Siyempre may kilala ako. Pero hindi naman ako pwede makahingi ng pera noon. Yung mga ng gamot, hindi makabili sa ospital, hindi makabayad. Gusto ko talaga yung healthcare para sa lahat. Yung mga exceptional na lang na kayang-kayang magbayad, yung 1% na inusap natin kanina, hindi sila makukover.
Yeah.
Pero miski ako halimbawa, pagkaroon ako ng regular operation.
I think she's moving along that line slowly. I hope, as I said, I hope she spreads her wings further on because she started with this laboratories para sa masa. You know how important it is before you get to be diagnosed or before prescriptions could be given to you. It really has to start with laboratories. You have to have blood checkup, X-rays, etc., and all of this. And she has already organized this, and she's moving around, starting with that because that's the fundamental. If that is any
Yeah.
indication of how she starts, that's with a project for healthcare, then really you start with laboratory.
In fact, more to the point, hindi ba dito libre naman ako sa UP Infirmary, faculty ako, no?
Yes.
Retired faculty. Pero I needed so many other things. United Bloodworks. Alam mo ba, bigla ako nagulat talaga. Pinayaran ko dito sa outside laboratories. I mean, it's a good thing may 28,000 ako because I really wanted to
Wow.
diagnose why I'm having leg cramps all the
Wow,
time, no?
wow.
Maliit na bagay naman, pero malaking bagay. Alam mo ba, hindi ka makasunda sa banyo, miski, you need to go to the banyo. You know, early in the morning.
Yes.
So, malaking bagay sa akin to find out, bakit ako lang yung leg cramps, no? Alam ko, sobrang kikay ko nung bata pa ako na naka-high heels ako na ano. Pero, bukod doon, bakit? Sobrang parang gabi-gabi na lang, no?
Yeah.
And talagang binayad ko 28,000. Isipin mo yung parang 28,000 na
Yes,
hindi
yes.
malaman bakit ano, pag-usap.
Yes, because
Siguro, Lisa Araneta, no? Marcos,
she
if you're
she
listening,
started that, and a lot of people do not
Yeah.
seem to appreciate how important it is. When she,
Sure.
meron siya mga mobile laboratories, etc., it goes to the barangays or certain areas na which really need help for this. And as I said, she's beginning with the fundamentals kasi hindi ka talaga makaka-prescribe or, you know, you'll never know what's wrong with the person or the patient or the individual client that you have in the hospitals because you start really, you know first, the basic blood test, urine test, lahat yung mga laboratories talaga. Naku, ang laki ng binayad niyo, ma'am.
Hindi kasi ang dami kasi hindi ko nga naiintindihan yung term. Sabi ko kailangan ba to? Health security kasi is first and foremost. Bago pa siya sa food, bago pa siya sa energy. Kasi kung wala kang health, the rest will be different. Wala ita. The rest will be sales.
Yes.
So tama yung kanyang tutok, no? Pakialaman mo yun.
Fundamentals.
And alongside it,
yes.
no? Alongside it, pakialaman mo yung education.
Yes.
Ako nga, kasi ako si Sarah, magkatabi kami kasi ni Sarah sa cabinet, no?
Yes.
Sa kanan ko siya. Very fine person, no? Hindi nagbe-makeup, ang ganda-ganda. Kinuha niya ako as an educator. Kasi alam niya educator ako. Nagpatulong siya sa akin sa DepEd. Pero pagkuha ng kanyang mga directors. Minsan, nag-search committee siya eh. Part ako noon, 3 kami na
Yes.
PhD. Pero beyond that, gusto ko sana malaman din ni Sarah na I'm very willing to help her with K-12. Kasi by the time nakuha na sa university, nanggaling na sila, minsan sa bulok na K-12. Maski pagsisikap namin na ayusin sila, na sila, pagdating sila sa amin, parang 18 sila eh. Yung mga bad habits sila. So, ang kailangan ayusin K-12. Yan ang talagang kailangan ayusin. And EDCOM 2 should address that. And the DepEd should address that. No? So, ang dami talagang, alam mo, people are saying, ba't ako nakadapa sa marami? Parang 77 years old na ako at ang dami-dami ko ng dapaan, doing, being engaged with the private sector, the public sector. And that's what I want to do. No, po, niyo man sabihin, ay, Malapit ka na nga, isang paa mo nga, nasa libingan na, tumulong ka na sa gobyerno. Di ba?
Exactly. You're so correct. You know, a long time ago, several years back, that was one of the first objections I had as far as the K-12 was concerned. Kasi ginaya exactly yung mga ginagawa nila sa European institutions, you know, from Germany, etc. In fact, nagkaroon pa nga sila na, a good friend of mine had to be a translator from German to English because of that K-12. So yun dun ginagaya natin. But as I've said, there are other countries here, Southeast Asian countries, who are actually patterning their educational system in accordance with their economic roadmap. So as you said, maybe that is one aspect also na kailangan tugunan. But here we are talking about our First Lady and the many things that she could do for the country. But one thing that we have to acknowledge is the fact that the last presidential elections of her husband, she was the one who understood the importance of networking and social blogging and all of this. And that could be utilized for the delivery of information to the people insofar as the activities of government is concerned.
Yeah. Actually, Rita, I had some, alam mo naman ako, ng imagination ko, ha? Tingin ko sa Facebook, ano?
Go ahead.
Ay, oo. Ano to? I don't know, kids moon siya. But minsan naisip ko, dahil nakikita ko talaga yung potential ni Lisa, pwede ito maglaan ng president. Diba? Kasi ano she's head on her shoulders. And she's very intelligent, she's feisty. Kailangan talaga, you have to kick ass No, hindi yung, she has anything and everything na kailangan mo sa leader. It's not being, it's not a gender thing. But usually, Rita, I'm sure you agree with me. Maraming magagawa babae, hindi gawa ng lalaki. Hello?
We hold half the heavens. Very much so, yes. Speaking of that, you were mentioning earlier the re-engineering and the restructuring of the bureaucracy. Would you believe that it was only just recently that they changed the name of this commission on the role of the Filipino woman? I mean, sabi ko nga, you mean it's 2023 and we still have to know what role the woman plays. So I think pinalitan na yan, naging role of the Commission of Women. Maraming commission ganyan, Professor, na pwede nang i-abolish. Sapagkat, hindi na talaga. I remember yung mga women delegation sa mga international conferences on women, may mga kasamang yaya na yung mga delegates natin. mga medyo beyond 80 na yung iba. So many commissions really that could be about. And I think that is one aspect that we have First Lady Liza Marcos could look into. One very important really is just to go over the PMS and find out all the different, sa civil service also, the different commissions that could be streamlined if not completely abolished. As her husband also has wanted to do this. Yan, pwede niyang gawin yan. Pwede niyang pasukan yan talaga.
Yeah, kasi yung in-announce the President, parang second or third cabinet meeting namin. It's my hand and immediately said, Mr. President, I'm sure you know I wrote a book on that.
Yes,
so I know
yes.
because it's more. And then I said, Mr. President, no one will abolish himself. You need to have an external entity that will do this. No, in-raise ko na the President at the time. And yes, I mean, ang dami nating hinahabol-habol. We have the wherewithal, we have the natural resources, we have the minerals, the fifth most mineralized countries in the world. We have you and me who are in the third age of our life, who are still willing to serve this country. Why not put them together and to be the leader of Southeast Asia? Yan na yan. Sinabi ko yan kay Bongbong.
Yes.
Sabi ko, Mr. President, ito yung libro ko sa ASEAN Parliament. Sana itatag mo yan dito sa Pilipinas. Kasi yung sa Jakarta na. No? Sabi ko, sana mag-leader ka na. Yung dedication ko sa kanya, yun ang nilagay ko doon. I want you to be the leader of Southeast Asia. Nilagay ko yun doon. Natawa siya sa akin. Sabi niya, napapaliw ba ito? Babae na ito. But it can be done. It can be done. Ang dami ko
Yes, maybe that's where Ma'am Liza Araneta Marcos could get into, maybe she should be carrying your book around and really get into that so that she could follow exactly what her husband was mentioning all throughout about streamlining the bureaucracy, etc. But let's go to another concern, because now we are still at the verge of deciding whether we are to accept 50,000 Afghans, or whether we're going to treat them as refugees or as immigrants or as transient whatever. So we're
Whatever, whatever money will get profiting them, let the United States do it. Saan gumawa ng problema, hapon mo sa kanila. Dito natandaan mo na nandito mga Vietnamese refugees. Sa amin sila sa house. Ba itong mga Vietnamese ay napatpad dito. Ang ganda-ganda ng mga vaccinations ang kanilang salapi eh. Diba? Yeah. And, the way
that is really saying it straight and simply, exactly. Oo nga. And besides, we cannot process 50,000 of them in any embassy we have abroad. You know, ito nga, hirap na tayo sa mga tourists natin at 100 a day in certain areas where there are really a lot of tourists. So can you imagine 50,000? But anyway, that you're so correct. Let America take care of them. After all, they were former employees. But let's look at the security angle now that we have a new Secretary of Defense, and then we have again all of this additional EDCA that we have, and then of course a lot of protests against it, but no decision as to the signing of any of these bases have pushed through yet. So where do we go from there?
Well, first of all, I've been interviewed 10,000 times in regard to this. I said, hindi ba nag-resign ako dito ng January 15?
Yes, no? Yes.
So, 2 weeks after, alam mo kung sino nag-announce ng additional exercise? No business. I really just cite her in very, very firm words. I don't use words there. By the way, the U.S. ambassador, andyan akong 6.5 months, never paid a courtesy call to me. And you know where that's going. So I'm not go there anymore. But ito din si Toro. Niya ako, wanted to meet with me. Sabi ko, bakit kaya? So nag-meet kami, sabi ko, bakit mo ako gusto meet? Sabi niya, later, gusto ko namang malaman yun. So sinabi ko sa kanya, ganun lang ako, siguro mga ilang pages yung dala-dala ko sa kanya. Pero, I want just to know it's hard. To look face to face in the eye. And the additional whatever number cannot be used as a staging point for the wars of any power, any major power.
Exactly.
Neither the US, neither China, anyone power, And we have so repeatedly declared, kung sinabi nga Taiwan is a province of China, we want China to be our neighbor, our friend, our partner. Silang ganda nga, silang ni President Duterte noon. Kailan ba yung ilang araw ago?
Yes.
No? Sabi ko, and ang daming taong nag-remark sa akin na ba ito si Dr. Carlos, napaka-naib naman ito. Sabi ko, kayong naib, hindi lang naib tanga, no? Alam mo yung good officers? I'm sure alam mo yan dito yung good officers. Kasi sinabi ni Bongbong, alam niya pupunta kay Duterte na, kasi sa person, hindi yan pupunta doon. Wala, actually, alam ni Bongbong. Hindi pa sabi ni Bongbong, any effort to enhance our relationship with China should be good.
Yeah. So
why are they looking at sinister things sa pagpunta ni Duterte doon? Sabi lang ni Duterte, ayusin natin yung lumalaking hidwaan between Philippines and China. Nalilimutan natin, ang China is for commerce and trade. Ang US for defense and security. So, defense and security, all the bases are here, located in the Philippine archipelago. Nothing happens in the bases. They have Filipino commanders without the permission of the government or without the permission of the relevant authorities. If you don't put that in your ticket, then you're stupid people. Diba? Ulit-ulit kaya sinasabi sa mga interviews ko, ilan yung mga networks yung sabi here? The bases are here. Nothing can happen here kung hindi nyo i-allow. So I hope Chodoro will hold it down in regard to this. And mukhang hindi magkakasasa ko yung sinabi niya po sa pag-visit.
Which is it's so simply said the way you present it. That's exactly the situation. I mean, why complicate it? That's exactly how the situation is. So I add up so much, so many other things to it. But that's exactly where we're leading on to, because social media, even traditional media, has really convoluted many of the thinking, not only here in our country, but throughout the world. You have so many of this propaganda that comes out that the enemy is there, our enemy is here. Ukraine is the enemy of Russia, when Ukraine is just a province of Russia and was granted already its independence during the time of Gorbachev and all of this. So anyway, we go down just before we close our program, because media has a very important role, really. And if we do not, align with any superpower, whatever color that is, if we do not be influenced by politicians or by the oligarchs that have big business interests, if media would just really be truly independent and free, then perhaps we can help the people realize that many aspects in our lives could be straightened out by, proper information. And that's where we're at today.
Excellent, excellent. Media must be the fourth branch of our government.
Yes, it
The
should.
reason we
Yes.
have democracy is because the media can be used, sabihin mo ng licensed ka, opinion. But media has to present all the, di pwedeng nakangiwik kayo sa New York Times, sa Washington Post, what I'm talking about. No? Meron po kayong, Russia Today, meron po kayong dito, meron po kayong ahas views para mabalanse nyo po sino ba dito ang akin, kung saan ako mag-subscribe. Hindi po pwedeng araw-araw hindi po ang istorya nyo, yung tinatawag na dominant discourse. And media is very, very, very powerful. But that said, ako kasi, I'm sure kita mo yung post ko sa FB. Sabi ko, guys, I became who I am, full professor taught the highest rank in the university, not by kissing us, but by, teaching well and writing 15 books. So that's how I am. Anybody who wants to diminish me, unang-una, I'm absolutely not corrupt. Gagawa po kayo ng istorya pag sabihin nyo ako'y magnanakaw. Hindi po. No? Hindi po ako magnanakaw. Humanap po kayo ng ebidensya na ako'y magnanakaw. Of course, marami din akong sapatos. Mas marami ata sa imelta. No? Pero yun naman ang tesis ko, Rita. Pagbigyan mo na ako. No? Ganyan. So yes, media should be in the center of every democratic governance. Kasi kung walang media, we will go towards dictatorship. Huwag na tayo magtanong-tanong na maggawa-gawa ng istorya na democracy tayo. Media is in fact the single most important predictor variable for a workable democracy.
Exactly. That's very true. And that is why I keep on harping on that many times, rather than just being biased and prejudiced according to the dictates of either political powers or the globalists or whatever you could call them, that manipulate not just our media here, but media throughout the world. I mean, war in Ukraine, and then of course China as a threat. Can you imagine China declaring war on its own province, which is Taiwan? I mean, things like that. Why did it not declare war against Hong Kong or against Macau and all of this? But anyway, marami pang pag-uusapan.
Pero Rita, nung ma-interject ko lang, sila may kasalanan yan eh. Talo sila sa Statcom. Katangahanan nila yan. Diba? Katangahanan nila yan. Bakit hindi siya gawa ng dibuho na bubungguin yung mainstream. Diba? Grabe ko sa kanila yan. Huwag na sa ating magpaglitin ko kayo.
Exactly. Kulang po kasi talaga sa research. You have to be based on evidence. You have to be based on facts. You have to be based on the truth. Yun po talagang importante. There are no two sides of the truth. Di ba?
There are many sides. In fact, truth, I don't know what it looks like. Truth is backed up by power. It's the mainstream.
Yes.
The mainstream. Unfortunately,
That's very
the
true.
earlier we realize that the better for everybody.
Exactly. So, Mom, with that, I'd like to thank you very much. I hope we can get together again soon. And I hope that we can discuss other more tangent things. And meanwhile, before we close, I think we can echo both of us by requesting that our concern for the betterment of our country also is for the betterment of our government and our president. And there you have a First Lady, Liza Araneta Marcos, who would really be by his side and help out in this manner, in many manners that she could. So thank you very much, Professor Clarita Carlos.
Siguro, Rita, wag by his side. Hindi ba, change ko na yung narrative eh.
Oh, ano
Should
na?
be an active participant. She just happens to have the title of First Lady. Wag by
Okay.
his side. Ayoko rin by his side eh. No? Ayoko rin hindi ko ayoko ng istorya na yan.
Very good.
An active participant, di ba?
Yes. An
Sana
active
nakita ko
participant.
sa kanya to,
Yes.
no? Oo.
Tama. Okay, so let's hope that people are hearing, people close to her would be hearing and send the message that both Professor Carlos and myself are sending. But meanwhile, maraming salamat po, Professor Carlos.
A great conversation on a very rainy afternoon.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Yes,
Okay,
take care, you
Rita.
too.
Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon. Okay, but then, anyway, we have some of those who've sent comments. Stormy Savvy, our problem po, lower prices, electricity, water, pressure na pagkain, Nexus EDCA, another injustice, yes. Belinda, hello, Queen Mother. Gosh, why would they even bring Afghans here? Haha, talaga. Grace Norgard, bumababa ang survey kay BBM dahil sa pakikialam ng asawa niya. Well, there are many angles also that we have to look into, and that's exactly what we discussed this afternoon, today. Dennis Domalaon, watching from UK, Cardiff, God bless po. Jerry Geraldo, good Margarita, God bless you. Watching from Doha, Qatar. Amparo Consuelo, idagdag ko lang suporta sa kailangan sa mga magsasaka. Government should make agriculture a reliable source of income. Sibuyas farmers renting land to plant on cannot compete with importers. You're very correct. Little 99, ang K-12 gawin nyo lang na pang call center training. Total nagko-call center din naman ng mga hindi kaya magpag-aral. Andres Teves, Rita and Clarita, pulong-pulong sa kaunlaran. Filipino style GMRC. Oh my goodness. Words and actions start them young and patriotism. Thank you very much. Orly Dakuyanan, bumababa ang survey kay BBM dahil sa EDCA, mas maraming kasing Pinoy na ayaw matulad sa Russia at Ukraine ng Pinas. Yes. Argulias Joselito, Orly Dakuyanan yan ang siya tunay na sinasabi mo. Little, again, ibang media bayaran eh. Oh my goodness, that's another long story. So thank you very much for having joined us, all of those who sent messages, and also to our guest this afternoon, Professor Clarita Carlos. Thank you all, and once again, see you next Saturday. Meanwhile, listen to the State of the Nation address on Monday of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. This is Rita Gadi for Chronicles.